All right, welcome everyone. We've got a session number 2 coming up here on day number 2. I appreciate you all participating in Lead Generation World London. We've had some really great sessions, and I've got a number of them still lined up, especially this next one. But before I make the introduction, I do want to remind you to participate. To do so, it's really simple. You can either, if you're in the Whova app, you can use the Q&A section there on the right side. Ask any questions at any point in time, and we'll address it as they come in, or at the end of the session, I'll make sure to ask those questions on your behalf. Or if you're watching this via Zoom, you can also use the Q&A option there. But either option works, and either option is encouraged. I think we get more out of the session when you ask questions, so please do so. But let's go ahead and get started. Our next presentation is The Art of Lead Buying by Simon Delaney, who is the CEO of DataBowl. Simon, welcome, and thank you for presenting on the topic. I'll sort of hand it over to you and let you take it from here.
Yeah, cool. Let me share my screen 1 second. Cool. So, yeah, hi, I'm Simon Delaney from DataBowl. What I want to go through is just some like foundational pieces that you can apply to lead buying. This is going to be like fairly simple stuff, but if you implement all of them, I think that you will reduce a lot of the bad leads that you could get, and you're going to improve your conversions and make things more transparent. Now, what I've found is there's tons of courses and gurus and stuff out there that tell you ways to generate leads. But there's very few things for buyers of leads. And this is one of the things with Lead Gen World that I know Michael's really hot on as well. And Michael, I'd just like to say thanks for the opportunity to present this as well. And I love Lead Gen World, everything it represents. Yeah, let's get into it. So I've been doing lead gen since around 2005. And the first company I started with, within 6 months of me starting there, I actually went into a 3-year earn-out to sell the company. And so over those 3 years, we were tasked with generating as much money as they possibly could get, because they wanted to sell the company for as much money as they could get. So within 6 months, my task was, you need to start buying bollock loads of leads. So when I started actually writing some of this presentation, I started thinking about what that actually meant. And I realized I was probably, along with a small team of people, one of the biggest lead buyers in the UK for a long period of time. So 2005 till probably 2014. I actually left that company after the 3-year earn-out and did a management buyout of it in 2010, but carried on the lead buying process. And all of that led to creating software, because obviously when you're buying leads in vast scale and, you know, all different types of leads with different types of intent, I was trying to automate the process, make sure the leads were better when we took them in, if we had any subsequent buyers, because we were like an agency. And that's how I got into it and really started the lead buying background. And obviously since 2014, I've moved into software, and that's been my pretty much entire focus. And now we have DataBowl. And at DataBowl, we believe in transparency between all parts in the lead gen process. So that's the generator, the buyer, most importantly, the prospect. And what we do is just build systems to enable this. So whether that's landing pages, affiliate tracking, lead distribution, the whole gambit, lead nurturing, and it's all with the idea that lead buyers, lead generators can create transparency and really nail the lead generation process. So the 6 steps I'll go through as part of this foundation piece are sort of, like I said, ways to improve the quality of the leads that you're buying, help conversion rates, and establish a transparent and efficient lead buying process. So if we start off, we're going to be talking about utilizing the brand. So this is what a lot of people miss in lead generation. So if you have a brand, or you are a big brand, it's the #1 thing that affects advertising ROI. It's actually 18 times more effective than anything else. This is why people always look for offers, because the actual brand that they have isn't necessarily overly strong. So if you've got a brand, either use that as the lead generation mechanism, or work in partnership with lead generators to actually utilize the power of the brand. And you can also use the opportunity within lead gen the whole lead gen process to actually build your brand. Because you've got to remember, there's a huge amount of brand awareness that goes on from lead gen. No one ever talks about this. They focus on the transactional aspect of lead gen, but in reality, you know, it's a huge brand awareness program that you're effectively running. So this is just a quick example of something that we actually ran. So we do a small amount of lead gen still internally, just for a couple of enterprise brands that we work with. So this is a brand we created called Clear Energy Switching. This is just something really simple, right? This is the same ad. We put the same budget, the same audience, was running on Facebook. And you can see one has in partnership with Scottish Power and the other doesn't. The one with in partnership with Scottish Power generated 15% more leads with exactly the same budget. And not only that, it actually got 7% more sales when you add them together. And it literally was the power of the brand, because there were no surprises for the consumer coming in or the prospect coming in. They knew who was going to contact them. They knew the process was going to go through and everything else. And this is the sort of partnership that if a lead buyer and a lead generator work well together, they can create and just boost the overall conversion rates. And if you don't have a brand, which obviously a lot of people don't, they have like, you know, small brands and people don't know about them. What you actually need to think about is who your ideal customer profile is. Like, what's your positioning? Who is it aimed at? How does your messaging resonate with them? What are you doing differently to stand out? This is something that Alan Desimere touched on yesterday when he was talking about people copying landing pages. And that's what happens, right? Everybody's landing pages end up exactly the same, because they're effectively just creating this like vanilla thing where everyone copies everyone's text. They all use the same images. They're all hitting the same audience. Nothing resonates with anybody. Now, here's two examples of brands that have been created. And I talk about this quite a lot with like our clients. I talk about it on LinkedIn constantly with like the 8 people that might read my stuff. But effectively, these are 2 lead generators, right? But look at it, like Tom stands out like a sore thumb in a good way, because it's life insurance for dads. If you're a hipster type of dad, aged like 30 to 40, you have kids, you've got a beard, all these sort of small things, this is really going to resonate with you. You're going to remember it. This is the sort of like targeting that they've got. It decides itself. And it's the same with Dead Happy as well. Right? They've not created a brand as in the ICP there, but what they've started to do is do the play on life insurance. So rather than doing the same thing that everyone does, which is like, yeah, picture of a happy, smiling 80-year-old couple, blue background, headline text is just nicked from somewhere else. They've changed the whole thing on its head and started talking about like the reality of death and actually trying to make it a quirky little thing that people can actually engage with. And what happens is you remember this. So even if you don't become a lead then, you will remember seeing this brand again. And it's completely different to the way most people think about building a brand when they're thinking of their lead generation process. So this is something that I think you can really use and really think about. And you have to dig into it. This isn't something that you can just like knock up in 15 minutes. You actually think about like what you want your messaging to be, how you're going to position it, who your ideal customer is. And that's how you get a niche and how you build a brand. So imagine you've now got your lead generation asset sorted, or the brand that you're going to use to bring it in, whether that is you are a brand or build one. Now you need to connect with real people. So in lead generation, I don't know if someone can give me another example of another industry, but imagine 35% of anything you ever bought was just not working or incorrect, or you couldn't sell to it. So it's like this, right? Like you buy 10 chairs and only 7 of them have legs. I mean, it'd just be crazy. But that's what happens in lead gen. So what can you do about it? So this is all fairly simple stuff, right? It's just like general database thing. But the reality is a lot of people don't do it. And in order to get rid of that 35% so that you can reduce your costs and increase your conversion rate, this is what you need to do. So use real-time suppression files. And this needs to happen in real time, right? So you need API to connect with the leads coming in. It needs to do lookups against like a customer base that you might have, or a do not call list. You need to ensure you've got validation on every form that collects data if you have, if you are collecting it. And if you're not, you need to validate the leads when you receive them. And by validating them, it's typically like the contact information. So is the email address correct? Is the telephone number live? What is their postal address real? Is it a Mickey Mouse name? Are there other details that are potentially missing that you can run validation against? And you also need to apply condition sets on the back end. What this means is actually removing people you can't sell to. So it could be you can't sell to men over 50 living in Kent, for example, but it could also be people that aren't really your ideal customer and you've got a lower percentage chance of selling to them. And so actually they just waste time in your sales function. And so you can build all these condition sets into systems like DataBowl, and there are other systems, so they can just remove them and you're just rejecting them. You don't have to worry about it and do it all in real time. And you can apply deduplication. Now, there's an argument where if you've got like a high purchasing intent lead, I'd actually remove deduplication in that scenario, because if you have a brand and someone submits a lead into it and then the next day it comes in again, it probably suggests that the sales team hasn't contacted them. And so you can either feed it directly straight into the sales team, so they just call it instantly again, or you're going to have to try and like find a way to update the sales team to tell them, oh, that lead that came in whenever it was, pull that back out again and call it. It's easy just to submit it again. And if you're still having problems removing like bad leads or condition sets or getting the conversion rates that you need, think about double opt-in email SMS. This is where a lead comes in, you send it an SMS or an email saying, thanks for your interest, please click here to confirm your quote, for example. And then that gets distributed as a lead straight to the sales team. But the biggest problem in lead generation is bots and click farms. And so that hits the lead generators in the front end, but it actually then gets applied to the lead buyers who this is aimed at on the back end. These people don't use fake information. It's 100% legitimate. They might even hijack IPs that are relative to the location that the lead's being submitted in. It can be really, really sophisticated. And so you need to think of ways to mitigate that. So there's stuff like IP lookup companies. So you run an API call, run against the IP, and they return it to say whether it's real or not, or whether it could be a bot. There's stuff like contact state or lead ID, so you can actually prove the origination of the data against the form that it's being generated on when it comes into the lead buying process. You can use recapture on forms. There's a bunch of things that you can do. What you virtually always notice with bots and click farms is there's some sort of pattern, but the secret is find that pattern, like be proactive about it. Don't wait until like a month end when you find out 50% of the leads are bad. And that's why you have to implement technology. Okay, the third foundational point that we like to talk quite a lot about is preparing sales. So there's one thing that everyone in lead gen talks about, right? This is nothing new. It's just like how quickly leads are contacted. And we all know it's hugely important. And if you're not doing it, yeah, you just sort of need to have a word with yourself. So I've got this in like two scenarios. So you're either a brand and it's your sales team that's buying the leads, in which case, that's where you just need to concentrate the effort in calling or contacting leads really quickly. But if you're an agency buying leads on behalf of a brand, how are you going to get the sales team to be more proactive and call the leads quickly? So you can literally just bitch and moan at them. I've done this loads in the past before, and it works. If you call someone every hour for a week, go and just call the leads quickly, eventually they're either going to tell you to piss off or they're just going to call the leads quickly. Another option is present a calendar link to the leads. This could be on the back of a landing page. So when a person submits, it says, when would you like a call? And they choose a specific time and date, and that then gets submitted to the sales team so they can spend a longer time calling it. You can create your own mini pre-sales team, which I know a lot of the lead generators do. So a lead is generated, it goes into a sort of mini sales team that they have that actually convert them. What they do is you qualify the lead further and book appointments in for people, and then pass that appointment time over to the buyer or the sales team. You can also use two-way SMS messaging. So the lead comes in, you send it an SMS saying, hi, thanks for your inquiry, when would you like a call? And then they can just start the replying process, and then that gives the sales team a longer period of time to actually contact them. And the ultimate thing, that happens all the time that you see with lead generators and agencies and buyers is they just end up ditching the buyer. So if you want to work with a lead generator and you're confident their leads are really good and you really want that process to work, you don't want that to happen. So you just need to contact the leads quickly. Another way to prepare the sales team is to build out sales packs. So this is we basically go through like the entire lead generation process of every type of lead from every channel, from every ad that could go into a sales team. And it's a full outline of it, all the ads that are used, the landing pages, the messages, everything. And it takes them through the exact journey that a user goes through, all the questions, everything that they've seen, all the possible answers that they could give. And then you can give like ideas for call intros based on the landing page or the information they've come in from. And this can actually be given as training to agents. So when you're setting up a new lead gen process and you're actually presented with this pack, and you start to align, there's no juxtaposition from the generation process to the sales process, it all gets completely and utterly aligned. And just doing this alone, doing it thoroughly, will add a couple of ticks to your conversion rates, because everything is seamless. It all just becomes completely the same message, the same positioning, same audience, and everybody knows what's happening. It's completely transparent. So we've talked about like bringing leads in as a lead buyer. And there's something that, you know, is becoming a bigger and bigger point, which is sending an update back to the lead generation process. So why do you do it? It's because the feedback helps them target people on like Facebook. So where leads have come in and they've converted to a sale, if you can feed that back into Facebook, it hones your targeting. So you're more likely to get leads and you're going to get them at a lower cost. Now, if the lead generator doesn't actually need that information, so for example, in like affiliate traffic, it probably isn't needed, but what they do need is the channels that it came from and the sources it came from and the demographics. So all this information that you know is happening as part of the sales process needs to go back in some way or other. And ideally, you need to make that real time, because at the end of the month, if you start producing spreadsheets and the budget has already gone driving traffic of 100 grand, it's just completely wasted. It all needs to be going real-time information backwards and forwards that helps everyone in the process. Now, a lot of the reason why buyers might not do this is they don't necessarily trust their sources. They're worried that the CPLs might go up if they start seeing how well they're doing. This is just like a contractual thing, and you've got to be able to trust your sources. This is down to like transparency, because if you both are going to work together and you can both build this transparency, you're going to trust them feeding leads into you, and you're going to trust sending sales information back to them. And what I would say is, if you feel like you can't trust your sources, just don't work with them, because they're sending you personal information of people. So if you feel like you can't trust them, imagine the person who's a lead, how little they'll trust them. So it's literally as easy as that. If you don't trust someone, just don't work with them. But it's not just about sales. There's another reason why feedback is key. It's because if you're buying leads in, say you've got 10 sources and one of the sources is tanking by 50%, there's some issue that's occurring. That's only 5% of the total volume of your leads. You might not even register that anything is happening, but you can bet your bottom dollar that the lead generator, where it's 50% of his leads, is going to notice immediately, because that's 50% of his revenue. So if you can get this like circle loop of feedback information going, it means that the lead generators and you are being proactive constantly to ensure there's no problems, to ensure that like throughput of leads is happening constantly, and everybody's aligned and sort of aware of what's happening in the whole lead generation process. So the fifth sort of foundational point is pursuing non-conversions. So this is leads that have come in, they've gone into a sales function, and you've not been able to sell to them. And what a lot of buyers do is just ditch that lead. It goes into a database somewhere, or just something else happens to it. When in reality, you need to build a relationship, and it needs to be added value, not sales hunting. So this isn't just sending an email out constantly going like, you know, become a sale, become a sale, become a sale. Send them information that is useful. They became a lead in the first place for a reason. So if you can hit the problem they've got or the benefit that you give, and just keep building that out, the user, it sort of has a few benefits. So one, it helps you build the brand out further, and it also is actually beneficial to the user. And if you actually think about how you do this, because I often wonder why more companies don't do it, like lead nurturing, right? I don't know why. It seems like complicated, but it doesn't need to be complicated. You literally, the way to build it is to like set an initial responder for when a lead arrives. So a lead arrives and it's, thank you for your information. These are the benefits you're going to get, or you're going to get a call whenever. And you just need to build from that. And as long as you keep this mindset of not going after a sale constantly, this is how you build a relationship with them. And when they have that problem occur or some other thing happens, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember the brand. And one way we use it is like an Uber model. So when a lead comes in, if it goes to a sale, we'll actually, because we've got like this nurturing process already going on from an initial responder, it might even be like a second update going out. By the time they become a sale, they're used to our messages. They're getting like 30-40% open rates. It's just pure information. And so when they convert, we'll send them an email going, if you'd like to benefit from something like, I don't know, £20 Amazon voucher, invite your family and friends, use this link, and if they convert, we'll send them a £20 Amazon voucher as well. And all we're doing is using the money that you would normally pay out for the lead to actually give back to the user who can refer people. And you can only do this sort of thing by effectively building a nurturing plan that you're going to go through. So the last point that we need to cover is just ensuring consent. So when you're buying leads, compliance and transparent consent is probably the biggest issue that you will face. And you can just deal with it quite easily. On every lead, you need to know the exact source. You need to sign off every single source that is feeding leads into you, and that adds the landing pages, everything that it's going through. You need to go through the privacy policy. And you also need to get the privacy policy on every lead. So when the leads are delivered to you, it can actually come with the privacy policy as like a link within it, or a bit of JavaScript attached to it. You need to get the time and date of the opt-in, and it needs to be a value on the lead. You need to get the channel that the user opted into. Is it SMS? Is it mobile? Is it as it's call? Is it email? Is it postal? And then if you can track additional information like the exact ad it came from, keywords it came from, even better. The trick is don't leave any stone unturned. And the reason is that, as we all know now, that it's not actually the person just generating the leads that would get in trouble. It's also you. And doing what we've listed here, if you have something like a subject access request or something else, you can be able to deal with it like that, rather than spending weeks trying to find this information and go around hunting things that you don't have anyway. So I think it's probably the best point to end this, because it might be the most important thing that you can apply is the transparent consent. But if you want to contact me about any of this, I could literally talk about each of these points for another hour, but I don't want to keep you sitting here for 6 hours. So we've just done like a broad brushstroke across some important things. But let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Simon. Yeah, we do have one question, and an excellent job going over these points.
Sure.
It's something you didn't necessarily cover, but the question is, if you're a lead buyer, when conversions start to go down, or you spot some type of negative trend in your lead conversions, how do you suggest a buyer manage that issue with their lead seller? I mean, should they? I'll add on to the question: should they be pausing it immediately? I mean, how do you recommend that partnership from a buyer standpoint when they start to see quality issues?
It depends how bad the problem is. Like if it's like 50%, it suddenly drops by, there's probably an issue. Like if that happens, it's been stagnant for a week at like a certain conversion rate and it drops off a cliff, I'd just pause it because there's some issue that just needs sorting out. And the easiest thing is to deal with it immediately. If we're talking like, I don't know, 10%, 15%, conversion rates fluctuate. And as a buyer of leads, you've got to just live with that fact. But as long as you can sort of either arrest the trend of it going downwards or actually dig into the problem. I mean, anyone doing lead generation with any amount of time, you can look out the window, it's a sunny day, the conversion rate is going to go down. So you need to factor in what the actual issue is and how big the actual problem is.
Yeah. There was a comment as well that supported your statement around not deduping with trusted partners. You made that point. Is there, you want to elaborate sort of a little bit on that, just a little bit more on why you would not want to dedupe with trusted partners?
Well, I think the point is that dedupe is dedupe is like a low intent thing for me, right? So if you're getting low intent leads, I don't know, like co-reg leads or something, and you're converting them at like 3%, 2%, you just dedupe it all day long. There's just no point in buying that thing again and having it go into the sales function. But if you've got high intent leads, you're converting, I don't know, 15, 20%. And the day before a lead has come in and the sales team has been trying to contact but hasn't been in contact. It doesn't even matter if they have, and then it comes in again, I'd contact it immediately. The one thing you need to watch for, and this is why the brand thing is important, is like, what's the source it came in from? Is it the same as the one that sent the original lead in? Because if it's different, it can come in. And this feeds into like the problem with landing pages being like really winky wanky and people not spending any time like thinking of like the brand and everything else, because they all look the same. If you're a consumer, I don't know, searching for life insurance or something, the likelihood is you could look at like 10 of them. And we know, right, because we all work in this industry and we can spot differences and we'll know different brands. They just wouldn't know. They'd think that, it was the same brand or a different one. So that's how I measure it, is potentially just look at the source that's actually sending the lead. And if it's different, let the lead fly in again.
Great. I appreciate it. Well, thank you very much for presenting this information to us. For those that maybe are watching this on a recorded, you can reach out to Simon, go rewind a little bit back to his information and reach out to him with any questions and go from there. But Simon, thank you very much for being a part of Lead Generation World and presenting today.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Thanks for the opportunity. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers, bye.